The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with energy as representatives from hundreds of species gathered to welcome humanity into the fold. Towering insectoids clicked their mandibles in polite curiosity. Bioluminescent creatures pulsed with a cautious rhythm, and gaseous life forms swirled gently in their containment fields. It was a moment of interstellar unity, or so the official records would later claim. In reality, there was a palpable undercurrent of unease. Humanity, the newest member of the galactic community, was different. Where most species entered the stars with measured caution and deliberate adaptation, humans had rocketed into the void with what could only be described as reckless enthusiasm. The concerns weren't baseless. Humans hailed from Earth, a planet classified as a Class 5 Deathworld, a designation reserved for the most hostile environments in the galaxy. Earth's wildlife, climate, and geography were all riddled with hazards designed to ensure that only the strongest, most cunning creatures survived. Yet somehow, humans, a species with no natural armor, no claws, no venom, and no apparent survival strategy beyond just keep going, had not only thrived, but also claimed dominion over their entire world. "They're too fragile," muttered the Photosynthian ambassador, whose species evolved on a placid, garden-like world. "Their skin tears at the slightest provocation. How do they even survive their own ecosystem?" "They don't," replied a crystalline delegate, whose angular form refracted the chamber's light in an anxious kaleidoscope. "Their mortality rates are staggering. It's as though they've simply decided not to go extinct through sheer stubbornness." This observation, though exaggerated, wasn't far from the truth. The Council had reviewed humanity's history before extending their invitation, and the data painted a picture of chaos, wars, pandemics, natural disasters. Earth's history was a catalogue of calamities. Yet humanity had not only endured but also innovated, thriving in conditions that would send most species into extinction-level spirals. The Council had hoped humanity's resilience would translate into valuable contributions to interstellar society. What they hadn't anticipated was the chaos that would come with it. Take, for instance, the incident at the humans' introductory session. While other species showcased advanced cultural artifacts and scientific breakthroughs, the human delegate, Commander Elena Vega, walked to the podium holding a steaming cup of coffee. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice calm and steady, "thank you for this honor. I know we're the new kids on the block, but I think you'll find that humans have a lot to offer. Innovation, adaptability, and a little something we like to call coffee." At first, the assembled delegates thought the term referred to a philosophical concept or a metaphorical expression of human ingenuity. But then Vega held up her mug. "Best stuff on Earth," she said, grinning as she took a long sip. The gesture, meant to be casual and approachable, sent ripples of confusion through this chamber. The gaseous nebulous delegate emitted a sound that translated roughly to, "What is this substance, and why does it look like it belongs in an engine?" The Photosynthian visibly recoiled, its bioluminescent fronds dimming in alarm. "What does it do?" asked the crystalline ambassador, their facets shimmering with suspicion. "Oh, it's simple," Vega replied. "Keeps us awake, sharpens our minds, fuels our productivity. It's a little bitter, but add some sugar and it's practically magic." Magic. That word alone was enough to cause a minor diplomatic incident. Several delegates immediately requested biochemical analyses, while others demanded to know if this coffee posed a threat to galactic stability. Vega's response, however, was what truly set the tone for humanity's relationship with the galaxy. "A threat? Nah," she said, shrugging, "unless you count the fact that we're unstoppable after a double-shot espresso, or—" The room fell silent. It wasn't the words that unsettled the Council, it was the tone. Vega didn't say it as a boast or a warning. She said it like a fact, as though the very idea of humans being unstoppable was simply part of the universal order, and that was the problem. Humanity wasn't just another species joining the galactic community. They were a species that thrived on challenges, laughed in the face of adversity, and drank poison for breakfast in the form of caffeine-laden coffee. To the Galactic Council, humanity was an enigma wrapped in chaos. To humanity, it was Tuesday. From that moment on, the Council realized they hadn't just invited humanity into their ranks. They had invited a caffeinated hurricane of ingenuity, determination, and audacity. And as the universe would soon learn, there's no stopping a species that doesn't know when to quit. The coffee incident that changed everything. The Galactic Council's annual cultural exchange banquet was always a spectacle. Delegates from every corner of the galaxy arrived to share their most prized cultural treasures, fostering interstellar unity and understanding. It was a peaceful tradition, full of diplomacy and decorum, until the humans arrived with their secret weapon. An unassuming metal urn, steaming slightly, sat at the centre of the humans' exhibit. Next to it, a handwritten sign read, "Coffee, humanity's greatest discovery." Around it were scattered mugs, creamers, sugar packets, and a gleaming carafe marked French roast. At first, no one paid it much attention. After all, what could this primitive beverage possibly offer in a room filled with bioluminescent artifacts, self-playing symphonies, and a gaseous art installation that doubled as a sentient being? The first brave soul to sample coffee was Ambassador Lyeth of the Crystalline Collective. Their species, known for their resilience and rigidity, prided themselves on maintaining a calm and logical demeanour at all times. "I shall try this as coffee," Lyeth declared, pouring themselves a small cup and examining the dark liquid with crystalline precision. The chamber watched in silence as the ambassador took a sip. At first, nothing happened. Lyeth tilted their angular head thoughtfully, as if analysing the flavour. Then, without warning, the ambassador's facets began refracting light wildly, sending rainbow bursts ricocheting across the room. This is extraordinary," Lyeth exclaimed, their usually monotone voice vibrating with newfound enthusiasm. "It's as though my synapses have been polished into hyper-efficiency." They immediately poured a second cup, then a third, each sip causing their crystalline body to shimmer with increasing intensity. The effect was contagious. Delegates who had previously scoffed at the beverage now lined up for a taste. Among them was a photosynthian delegate, whose species relied on chlorophyll absorption for energy. One cautious sip later, the photosynthian's bioluminescent fronds began glowing so brightly that several nearby delegates shielded their sensory organs. "This must be what humans mean by photosynthesis on steroids," the photosynthian marvelled, before grabbing another cup and chugging it in one gulp. As more species indulged, the effects became both remarkable and alarming. A gaseous nebulous delegate, notorious for their slow and deliberate movements, suddenly zipped around the room at impossible speeds, leaving vapour trails in their wake. "I can see in dimensions I didn't know existed," they shouted gleefully, swirling into the shape of a caffeine molecule. Meanwhile, humans watched the chaos unfold with the serene satisfaction of a species that had seen it all before. Commander Elena Vega, the human representative, leaned back in her chair, cradling her own mug. "Yeah, first cup's always the wildest," she mused. The turning point came when the Vishtari diplomat, a hyperlogical species revered for their mathematical prowess, decided to try a cappuccino. Moments later, they began scribbling furiously on a holographic tablet, their equations spiralling into dimensions even their own kind couldn't comprehend. This changes everything," the Vishtari muttered, their usually calm voice shaking. "I must rewrite the galactic theorem of probability." What started as a cultural exchange quickly devolved into what could only be described as a caffeine-fueled rave. Delegates danced, debated, and drafted intergalactic treaties at record speeds. The nebulous delegate attempted to harmonise with the self-playing symphony, while the photosynthian ambassador started a movement called caffeinated enlightenment. Not everyone was amused. The Krinkak representative, whose species thrived on strict order, observed the chaos with rising dread. "This beverage is a destabilizing force," they bellowed, pounding their chitinous appendage on the table. "We must contain it before it upends galactic harmony." Their warning came too late. By the time the banquet ended, coffee had spread like wildfire through the council. Several delegates requested trade agreements for coffee beans, while others demanded embargoes, claiming the drink violated interspecies safety protocols. The fallout was swift and wide-reaching. The photosynthians, once a serene and meditative species, began holding daily coffee and contemplation rituals, resulting in an unprecedented surge in technological innovation. The Vishtari produced a 12,000-page mathematical treatise overnight, declaring coffee the ultimate algorithmic accelerant. Even the nebulous collective, previously uninterested in material goods, began hoarding espresso machines as cultural artifacts. But the chaos didn't stop there. Back on Earth, human leaders were inundated with requests for coffee exports, prompting an economic boom and the rise of bean diplomacy. However, the humans remained unfazed by the galactic uproar. When asked about the unintended consequences of their caffeinated contribution, Commander Vega simply shrugged. "Coffee isn't just a drink," she said, sipping from her mug. "It's a way of life. and if the galaxy isn't ready for that, well, they'd better buckle up. The Galactic Council, meanwhile, was left grappling with an undeniable truth. Humanity's greatest threat wasn't their technology, their resilience, or even their creativity. It was their coffee, an unassuming beverage that had forever altered the galaxy's trajectory. From that day forward, the incident was immortalized as the Great Coffee Catastrophe, a moment in history when the galaxy learned the hard way. Never underestimate the power of humans and their morning brew. Humanity's caffeinated innovations. If the coffee incident was the spark, what followed was the wildfire. Once the galaxy got a taste of humanity's most cherished beverage, it was only a matter of time before coffee evolved from a quirky human indulgence to a galactic game-changer. But while other species were busy marvelling at its effects, or recovering from them, humans, ever the innovators, were busy weaponizing caffeine in ways no one could have predicted. It began innocently enough. The Photosynthians launched a series of caffeinated enlightenment programs aimed at integrating coffee into their education systems. Inspired by humanity's productivity habits, they encouraged students to drink a cup before engaging in complex problem-solving exercises. The results were immediate and dramatic. A Photosynthian scholar broke the long-standing mystery of faster-than-light botanical communication after an all-nighter fueled by a double-shot latte. However, this newfound brilliance came at a cost. Reports began circulating of Photosynthians experiencing caffeine blooms, a condition where their fronds glowed so brightly that entire rooms were rendered uninhabitable. Humanity, as always, had a solution. Just dim the lights and enjoy the glow, one human researcher advised. You're basically walking disco balls now. Own it. Then came the Nebulous Collective, whose gaseous forms proved uniquely susceptible to coffee vapour. After discovering they could absorb caffeine directly into their molecular structures, the Nebulous began experimenting with fog lattes and espresso clouds. The results were chaotic. One Nebulous engineer reportedly hypercondensed after inhaling too much coffee vapour, briefly turning into a black hole before stabilizing. Yet even amidst this chaos, humanity's own caffeinated innovations stole the show. It wasn't enough for humans to share coffee with the galaxy. They had to turn it into a tool of unimaginable utility. Innovation 1. The caffeinated engine. The first breakthrough came from Dr. Eleanor Park, an Earth-based engineer who, after consuming what she described as too much cold brew, invented a warp drive powered entirely by recycled coffee grounds. The idea was so ridiculous that it worked. By harnessing the residual chemical energy in used coffee grounds, Park created a prototype engine that was not only efficient but also entirely renewable. The Galactic Council was skeptical, until Park's ship completed a hyperspace jump to a previously unreachable system, powered only by what she called yesterday's leftovers. That's the beauty of coffee, Park said in her press release. Even the garbage is useful. Soon, caffeinated engines became a staple in Earth's space fleet, with other species scrambling to replicate the technology. The Kringkak attempted to reverse engineer the drive, using their own dietary byproducts, but abandoned the effort after their experiments resulted in several messy, combustible failures. Innovation 2. Operation Bean Blitz. Next came the military application of coffee, a development that in hindsight seems inevitable. During an interstellar standoff with a notorious pirate group, the human military devised an unorthodox plan: distract the pirates using the aroma of freshly brewed coffee. Dubbed Operation Bean Blitz, the mission involved deploying drones loaded with industrial-strength espresso machines to infiltrate pirate strongholds. The strategy was absurd yet devastatingly effective. The aroma of coffee spread through the pirate ships, luring the crew into disarray as they abandoned their posts to investigate the source of the intoxicating scent. By the time they realized what was happening, human soldiers had already secured the ships. The operation was later immortalized in military history as the first successful use of olfactory warfare. Commander Elena Vega, who spearheaded the mission, described it best. "We didn't just win, we caffeinated them into submission." Innovation 3. The coffee-powered diplomat. While military and engineering breakthroughs gained attention, coffee also revolutionized diplomacy. Human negotiators began incorporating coffee summits into their strategies, inviting alien diplomats to share a cup before high-stakes discussions. At first, the practice was met with suspicion. The Vishtari, for instance, worried that coffee's effects on cognitive processing might compromise their logical judgment. Those fears evaporated, however, when a Vishtari diplomat drank an Americano mid-negotiation and successfully calculated a compromise that saved 3 star systems from interstellar war. "Coffee doesn't cloud judgment," explained one human ambassador. "It sharpens it. Think of it as clarity in a cup." These summits became so popular that they spawned a new cultural trend, the diplomatic roast, where delegates competed to see who could brew the most impressive coffee blend. Naturally, humanity dominated the competition, much to the chagrin of other species. Unintended consequences. Of course, not all innovations were without consequence. As the galaxy's dependence on coffee grew, so did the side effects. The Nebulous Collective began experiencing caffeine storms, where over-caffeinated individuals emitted high-energy vapor clouds capable of short-circuiting nearby electronics. The Photosynthians, meanwhile, started a grassroots movement to ban decaf, declaring it an insult to caffeinated enlightenment. Even humans weren't immune. The sudden demand for coffee beans led to an interstellar agricultural boom, with Earth exporting beans to every corner of the galaxy. Coffee farmers became intergalactic celebrities, while bean smuggling cartels emerged to capitalize on black market demand. One Krinkak official, in a rare moment of humor, described coffee as the galaxy's newest controlled substance, a legacy of innovation. In just a few short years, coffee had gone from a niche human habit to a galactic obsession, thanks to humanity's relentless ingenuity. What other species viewed as a beverage, humans saw as a limitless resource, one that could power ships, win battles, and bridge cultural divides. The Galactic Council, still reeling from the coffee incident, could only marvel at how one simple drink had reshaped interstellar society. As one delegate famously remarked, "Humans don't just adapt, they caffeinate, and the universe will never be the same. Alien reactions, the fallout of giving humans coffee." The Galactic Council knew the humans were an anomaly, a species born of a Deathworld thriving despite their own fragility. But coffee? That was the breaking point. What had begun as a quirky human habit spiraled into a cultural upheaval that shook the foundations of interstellar society. Coffee wasn't just a beverage, it was a force of nature, and the galaxy was utterly unprepared for its caffeinated conquest. The Photosynthian Uprising. The Photosynthians, a serene and contemplative species, were the first to feel coffee's disruptive effects. Known for their bioluminescent fronds and meditative lifestyles, they had once viewed humans as chaotic but harmless. That changed after the coffee incident. Initially, they embraced coffee as a tool for enlightenment. Their philosophers drank it during deep thinking sessions, claiming it enhanced their connection to the cosmic flow. But soon, their once harmonious society began to fray. Fronds that had glowed softly now pulsed erratically, resembling nightclub strobe lights. Philosophers abandoned measured debates in favour of rapid-fire arguments that often ended in literal shouting matches. One Photosynthian scholar summarised the crisis in a frantic public broadcast. "Coffee has elevated our minds but fractured our souls. We cannot turn it off." To combat the chaos, the Photosynthian government declared a temporary ban on coffee imports. However, their citizens, now hopelessly addicted, launched protests under the banner of caffeinated freedom. Entire cities lit up in neon-like bioluminescent displays as Photosynthians took to the streets, chanting slogans like "No bean, no peace." The ban was eventually lifted, but not before the Photosynthian Enlightenment movement splintered into factions, each advocating for their own preferred brewing methods. The French press purists and the espresso elitists continue to feud to this day. The Nebulous Storms. For the Nebulous Collective, coffee introduced a literal atmospheric disturbance. As a gaseous species, they could absorb caffeine directly into their molecular structure, experiencing its effects almost instantaneously. At first, this seemed like an incredible boon. Nebulous engineers reported unprecedented productivity, completing projects in hours that would have taken years, but the effects were short-lived and catastrophic. Over-caffeinated nebulos began emitting high-energy vapor clouds, causing localized coffee storms that short-circuited electronics and overwhelmed nearby life forms. Entire space stations had to be evacuated after nebulous engineers inadvertently overloaded critical systems with their hypercharged energy fields. The most infamous incident occurred on the trading hub of Argon 5, where a nebulous diplomat, after drinking what humans called a triple-shot espresso, condensed into a swirling cyclone that lifted an entire docking bay into low orbit. The event, now known as the espresso vortex incident, forced the Galactic Council to pass emergency regulations limiting nebulous coffee consumption. The nebulous protested, claiming the restrictions violated their cultural sovereignty. In response, they created a black market network for coffee vapor cartridges, nicknamed bean bombs. These illicit operations continue to disrupt interstellar trade routes, much to the Council's frustration. The Krinkak's declaration of war on decaf. The Krinkak, a species of rigid, rules-obsessed bureaucrats, approached coffee with suspicion from the start. Their officials described it as chaotic fuel and accused humans of destabilizing galactic norms. Nevertheless, individual Krinkak couldn't resist experimenting. The results were unsettling. Krinkak drones, previously known for their mechanical efficiency, began displaying uncharacteristic behavior. Reports emerged of drones abandoning routine tasks to compose poetry, host impromptu debates, or binge-watch human media about dragons. But the real tipping point came when humans introduced the Krinkak to decaf coffee. The Krinkak, misunderstanding the concept, assumed it was an inferior weapon. Why would humans remove the very chemical that gives coffee its power, demanded a Krinkak general during an emergency council session. This is an insult to the sanctity of caffeine. The Krinkak declared a formal war on decaf coffee, launching a propaganda campaign urging all species to reject it as a heresy against productivity. To this day, Krinkak trade ships carry banners that read, "Decaf is defeat. Human responses, shrugging and innovating." While the galaxy reeled from coffee's impact, humanity remained remarkably unfazed. When asked about the chaos they'd caused, Commander Elena Vega famously shrugged. "It's not our fault the galaxy can't handle a little caffeine. You'll need to build up a tolerance." Instead of slowing down, humans doubled down on coffee innovation. They launched Interstellar coffee franchises, turning Earth's humble cafes into cultural hubs. Starport Coffee, the galaxy's first chain, became an instant hit, offering specialty blends tailored to alien physiology. Their most popular drink, the nebulous Nitro Mist, remains banned in 3 systems due to its tendency to induce uncontrollable giggling. Humans also spearheaded the development of coffee-based technologies, from portable brewing kits for long-haul space travel to bean-powered battery packs. These innovations, while practical, only deepened the galaxy's dependence on the substance, cementing humanity's role as the galaxy's ultimate caffeine supplier, the lasting fallout. The Galactic Council tried to regulate coffee consumption, but the genie was already out of the bottle. Species that had once mocked humanity's reliance on coffee now fought over Earth's limited bean supply. Meanwhile, human coffee exports skyrocketed, turning humble farmers into intergalactic celebrities. Even now, debates rage across the galaxy. Is coffee humanity's greatest gift or its most dangerous weapon? Some species view it as a unifying force, bridging cultural divides. Others see it as an addictive menace, destabilizing the natural order. One thing, however, is clear. Coffee has irrevocably changed the galaxy, and as humanity sips its morning brew, watching the chaos unfold, one question lingers. What will they caffeinate next? The lesson of humanity and coffee. By the time the Galactic Council reconvened for an emergency session on humanity's coffee exports, it was too late. What had started as a quirky human habit had transformed into a galaxy-wide phenomenon. The chamber was unusually quiet as delegates took their seats, the weight of recent events clearly pressing on their minds. For many, the mere mention of coffee now sent shivers through their appendages. At the centre of it all sat Commander Elena Vega, humanity's representative, with her ever-present mug in hand. She sipped nonchalantly, completely unfazed by the chaos her species had unleashed. The silence was broken by Ambassador Leith of the Crystalline Collective, who rose to speak with their usual crystalline authority. "Commander Vega," Leith began, their facets shimmering with tension, "we must discuss the destabilizing effects of your beverage. Entire ecosystems have been disrupted. Galactic trade routes are in disarray. Even now, my people suffer from what we have come to call the perpetual gleam due to over-caffeination." Vega raised an eyebrow, taking another sip. "Perpetual gleam? Sounds kind of nice, actually." "It is not nice," Leith snapped, their crystalline structure flickering. "We cannot dim. Even in sleep we shine like stars, blinding one another. It has led to what you humans call grumpy mornings." The chamber erupted into murmurs of agreement as other delegates shared their grievances. The Photocynthians reported that their Enlightenment movement had fractured into more than 50 factions, each advocating for their preferred brewing method. Our once unified culture is now divided between those who favour espresso and those who champion cold brew, wailed the Photocynthian representative, their fronds quivering. The nebulous delegate floated forward, their gaseous form dimmed from recent coffee storm regulations. We are now dependent on imported vapour blends, they admitted. Without coffee, our productivity plummets. With it, we risk collapsing into molecular chaos. Is this balance intentional? The Krinkak, as always, were less subtle. Humanity has weaponized coffee to gain economic supremacy, their representative barked. And this decaf abomination you introduced has divided our people into warring camps. All eyes turned to Vega, who leaned back in her chair with an amused smile. You know, she said, swirling the last bit of coffee in her mug, you're all acting like this is our fault. But really, you brought this on yourselves. The chamber fell silent, save for the faint hum of translation devices. A lesson in human nature. Here's the thing about humans, Vega continued. We didn't invent coffee to destabilize the galaxy or spark an interstellar caffeine addiction. We invented it because we needed to survive. Earth isn't like your worlds. It's wild, chaotic, unpredictable. And so are we. Coffee didn't just keep us awake, it kept us going. It became part of who we are. She gestured to the gathered delegates, her tone shifting from light-hearted to sincere. But here's the part you're all missing. Coffee isn't about chaos, it's about potential. When you drink it, you don't just wake up, you wake up. You think faster, solve problems better, push your limits further. That's not a bad thing, it's a gift. The Vishtari delegate, still clutching their holographic tablet covered in equations, hesitantly raised a hand. But what of the unintended consequences? Yeah, there's been some fallout, Vega admitted. Photocynthians glowing brighter than they'd like. Nebulos causing the occasional storm. But think about what's come out of it. New alliances, new technologies. Hell, you've all innovated more in the past decade than some of you have in centuries. The chamber murmured in reluctant agreement. The Vishtari delegate, who had rewritten entire galactic theorems thanks to coffee, nodded slowly. It is a catalyst for progress, they admitted. Humanity's real gift. Vega leaned forward, her voice soft but firm. You all keep saying we've weaponized coffee like it's some grand scheme, but the truth is we didn't need to. Coffee isn't the weapon, it's the tool. The weapon is us. Her words hung in the air, heavy with implication. The delegates exchanged uneasy glances as the full weight of her statement sank in. Humans don't conquer with force, Vega said, her tone growing sharper. We don't need to. We adapt. We innovate. And yeah, sometimes we cause a little chaos along the way, but we do it because we see potential where others see limits. That's what coffee represents. It's not just fuel. It's a reminder that there's always more to do, more to build, more to discover. She stood, her mug now empty, and addressed the entire chamber. So, you can blame us for your glowing fronds, your storms, your fractured factions, or you can embrace what coffee has shown you, that you're capable of more than you ever imagined. The choice is yours. A changed galaxy. The council adjourned with no formal resolution, but the impact of Vega's words lingered. The Photocynthians left with a renewed determination to unite their factions under a shared brewing manifesto. The Nebulous Collective began refining their vapor blends to harness coffee's power without destabilizing their molecular forms. Even the Krinkak, begrudgingly, started importing Earth's beans in bulk. As for humanity, they continued to innovate. Earth's coffee exports soared, turning the humble bean into the galaxy's most sought-after commodity. New brewing technologies emerged, from zero-gravity espresso machines to hyper-concentrated cold brews capable of fueling entire space stations. And through it all, humanity remained unapologetic. As one human barista famously quipped during an intergalactic interview, we didn't mean to change the galaxy, we just wanted a good cup of coffee. The final lesson. Years later, the Vishtari diplomat, now a renowned mathematician, summarized the events in a widely circulated essay. Humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy was not coffee, but the mindset it represents, a refusal to accept limits, an insatiable drive to improve, and an uncanny ability to turn the mundane into the extraordinary. Coffee was merely the catalyst. The true power lies within them. And so, the galaxy learned the hard way. When humans share their secrets, even something as simple as a cup of coffee, the universe will never be the same.